rather than a full-blown production today. I realized that I was not able to broadcast anything yesterday, and some of my program availability has been, well, a little bit hit and miss this summer. No, I haven't even gone on vacation yet. It has just been an incredibly busy summer. I thank you for your patience and understanding in that. Believe it or not, I actually am a pastor, and we have a lot going on, in particular in the way of day camps and outreaches for young people. So I've been very busy with that, and that, of course, is my first priority. But I decided that today I would just come on here and go live. You know, the Bible says that whatever a man sows, that also shall he reap. And Dr. Fauci, he's doing a little reaping. Have you seen the headlines? He's got the virus. Now, what's interesting about that, the New York Post, I think, had the best headline. Quadruple vaxxed Dr. Anthony Fauci has the virus. I mean, here is a guy that for months, weeks, years, has been advocating nonstop that there is one and only one way of dealing with this outbreak. And that is, of course, Love Potion number 9. Even though all of the facts on all of this have changed, and even Dr. Fauci finally had to come out and admit that no, once you receive Love Potion number 9, that is no guarantee that you won't get the virus. Doesn't matter that he's changed his position. It doesn't even matter that the CDC has modified position. If you say anything like that on here, YouTube will censor me. In fact, I got a week off here a couple of weeks ago because of a video that I had posted back in December. It's been up for 6 months, no problem whatsoever. Then one of the checkers decided to go back, and I was simply asking a question: who pays Dr. Fauci? Oh, no, nay. I wonder if they will censor and remove Jesse Waters from Faux Pas News, formerly known as Fox News. I know his video is up here from his monologue last night in reporting on Dr. Fauci. He said, is it karma? I mean, here is the guy who funded the lab in Wuhan that thrust this virus on us. He actually said it, and now he's got it. Now, of course, the media outlets, which are very Fauci-friendly, have been quick to report he has very mild symptoms, and sometimes you just have to weigh the risk of whether or not to engage in activity based on what might happen, and he weighed the risk, and he's decided that, you know what, he contracted the virus, but he's okay. He has the right to make that decision. Everybody has the right to make that decision. But again, for years we haven't been able to talk about any other types of treatments. In fact, certain treatments, if I mention them here and now, I will be pulled. I will lose my channel. It doesn't matter that there is now an overwhelming plethora of evidence, even in the medical establishment, who are finally beginning to speak up and push back on the official narrative. They have finally been able to say that there are treatments available. These treatments do work, but if I mention any of them by name, that's a problem. That could be seen as spreading, quote, disinformation. Because again, from the very beginning, the idea was the vaccine. And again, if you want to get the vaccine, you have every right to do so. I would never give any medical advice to anyone. I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on television. You have to do what you believe you need to do in accordance with what your doctor tells you of what's right, what's best for you. 3 years ago, actually maybe it was closer to 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with diabetes. And I remember when the doctor first told me that, she kept talking and I really wasn't hearing her in that moment. All I was kind of hearing was the sound effect of the school teacher on Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. I wasn't processing what she was saying. Because when she told me I had diabetes and apparently my blood sugar was way over 300, all I could think of was, I'm going to have to go on insulin. I'm going to have to deal with this the rest of my life. I might have to have, something amputated from my body because of the effects of diabetes. I could lose my eyesight. What's happening here? And I remember I was beyond devastated. I went home. I was almost inconsolable. I spent 2 days away from everyone, away from my wife, away from my family, and I was just down, depressed, whatever you want to call it. And then I began to read, and I began to do some research. And at first, the doctor prescribed a particular medication for me that, this is going to combat it. And I noticed after I was on that medication for about a week, I couldn't see. Now, the glasses I'm wearing, they're really reading glasses. I wear them for this because it cuts down a little bit on the glare. But I can see perfectly fine without them on. But when I'm reading, especially the small print, these are readers. That's really all they are. I think this is like a 1 power lens. That's it. My daughter put these on one day and she's like, "Dad, this is just like wearing plastic over your eyes. Why do you need these?" But I do to read something small print. But I was sitting in my house. We had some family and friends over. And as I was looking around the room, I began to realize I was having trouble seeing. Now, I could see people, I could see objects clearly, but for example, we've got one of those big 75-inch, flat screen TVs in our living room, and right across the bottom, in big bold lettering, Panasonic. I couldn't read it. My wife has, all kinds of things, hanging up on the walls, and there's one particular Bible verse that she has hanging up on a wall. I couldn't read it. I got in my car, I couldn't read the stop sign. Everything was blurry. So my wife, who is a registered nurse, said, I think you are having a toxin reaction to the medication you're taking. And she and I made a decision. Notice I'm not telling you what that medication was. I stopped taking it. And within about 2 weeks, my vision cleared up completely. And I determined in my personal research and study that diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is, it's a behavior-driven problem. In other words, diet created the problem. Poor choices, eating too much of the wrong thing, way too much sugar, etc., etc., etc. My weight was a huge problem at the time. We decided what would be best is to treat it naturally. I changed doctors. I went to a doctor who is more of a holistic approach. Now, he still believes in medicine. He still prescribes medicine. He's tried a couple of times to get me back on that medicine. I won't take it. I will not. By the way, my blood sugar was 82 this morning, and it runs right now in the 70s and 80s, and I've been that way for about 4 years. I lost over 100 pounds. I've got a few more pounds I probably need to lose. You all know it's a lot easier to put it on than it is to take it off, but I feel great. Once in a while, it spikes a little bit, but spiking for me is around 100. I know people who have been diabetics for years. They would kill for their diabetes to only be at 100. My A1C runs about 4.5, 4.9. Again, this is without medication, but this is a decision that my wife and I made, and I have a doctor that is in agreement with what we're doing. He oversees, my diet. I took a real radical approach in the very beginning because I knew I needed to lose a lot of weight. Soda was gone completely. Now, I will confess that I can't just drink water. So I drink water, drink coffee, and as an occasional splurge, Coke Zero. Zero sugar. I don't drink the diet stuff because I don't like the wicked aftertaste, and I usually get a headache. But the zero products, which are a derivative of this product Splenda, that I like. No carbs, no sugar intake, and if I test at 80 on my blood sugar before drinking the Coke Zero, I can drink a whole can of Coke Zero, test my blood sugar again, and I'm still at 80. It has zero effect on my blood sugar. So that's my splurge. Now, I said all that to say this. The good doctor, Dr. Fauci, is saying that I determined that I was willing to take the risk and engage in a behavior that could potentially expose me to the virus, and I did it, and I got it, and I'm going to be fine. Then let everybody else do that. Stop advocating and every once in a while threatening that maybe the lockdowns will have to come back. Maybe the mandatory masking will have to come back. See, when you start doing that, you are taking the right away from people. Now, according to Kellyanne Conway, and I don't know, I got to be really honest, I don't care whether they're a Trump supporter or not a Trump supporter. I don't care whose White House they worked in. Very rarely do I get caught up in reading the reports and the memoirs of former presidential staff members. I know there were people that just got all excited every time an ex-Clinton staff member would write something about the presidency of Bill Clinton and talking in particular about, what a deranged nutcase Hillary was. So I didn't read that kind of stuff, and I still don't read that kind of stuff. First of all, I can't prove it. I can't substantiate it. It's accusation. And I don't read all of the wonderful glowing stuff about each person either. Listen, as a pastor, I can tell you, I deal with people. I deal with me. And I know that everybody is flawed. Everybody has things about them that you may like, and they have things about them that just absolutely rub you the wrong way. But Kellyanne Conway has been making the rounds on Fox News and even made it to Bill Maher's program a week or so ago, because she's got a brand new book about her time in the Trump White House. And she was talking about Dr. Fauci. And she said, it's amazing as he's out there telling everybody to double and triple mask. And when we would do the press briefings, once he got on board with the masking, maybe I ought to go back to what I used to say. I used to code it so Facebook didn't, smack me, wearing the hat. She said, once he got on board with that and just, kept doubling and tripling down on the need for it, even though President Trump would come out to the podium without a mask, Dr. Fauci always masked. She said, when the cameras were there. She said every meeting in the Oval Office, every meeting with the staff and with the cabinet, he was unmasked. And this is pre-vaccine. Now just let that sink in, because now you have people like Bill Gates who are out there basically saying what a lot of us knew but were getting in trouble for, and we were being given community strikes, and we would be given time off and suspended from Facebook a week, 2 weeks. What we were saying then, Bill Gates is now saying that this is a virus which its most adverse fatal effects are really on elderly people who are already sick. We know for a fact that we have been asking for, can we get the real numbers when it comes to the deaths? Are these deaths from COVID or are these deaths with COVID? Because they finally had to fess up back in, I think it was February, that there's a little problem in the way the hospitals have been recording this. You think? Some of us figured that out in the very beginning when they were talking about, hospitals are going to be paid on a tier process. They'll get so many dollars for somebody that's got COVID. They'll get so many dollars if they have to put somebody in the ICU with COVID. And then they'll get so much money if somebody dies with COVID. So I'm sorry, but the potential for this not to be as truthful as it needs to be was certainly there. And when we pointed it out, we were conspiracy theorists. We were spreading disinformation. And now we're finding out, because you've got Bill Gates saying, the vaccines did not perform as they should have. People should not have to go get revaccinated every 6 months. This is not me saying it. This is Bill Gates, the big Fauci cheerleader. Although Bill Gates himself is a college dropout. I mean, here's a guy, I wasn't aware that he was a virologist, but yet he's been upheld by the media and the same people that would love to censor this. They put this college dropout out there who can't even keep his computer systems from getting viruses, but yet he was a guy we were supposed to look at as an expert on how to handle this. But even now he's saying, we took some draconian measures that were really they were over the top and they really didn't do as advertised. That's Bill Gates saying that. So as far as Dr. Fauci now having this, you know, I had it twice. I had it twice. I got whatever you call the classic version of it, you know, where you lose your sense of taste and smell. Now, my taste came back within about a week, which I'm very thankful for, because one of the few pleasures I still give myself when it comes to my diet is my morning coffee. I love my morning coffee, and I love the flavor of the morning coffee. And, you know, not being able to taste it was kind of just, ugh. So I was so glad when that came back. It took months for my sense of smell to come back, and it would come back in stages. I'd kind of have it, and then I wouldn't. I could smell certain things and not certain others. So I used to apologize to anyone that came to my house, you know, because my dog, I'd say, if the house smells like dog, I can't smell it. Sorry. But, so I had that classic version, had that just before Thanksgiving. And then in January, I got Omicron, which sounds like a character from a Transformers movie. Optimus Omicron, which was basically the extent of a cold. And for months, many of us were saying, and then finally, eventually, even Dr. Fauci had to come out and admit, this is here. We're not going to get to zero. We're going to have to figure out how to live with it. And we need to be allowed to live normally. And it just, the American people were too smart, and were beginning to figure out, now wait a minute, I had never stood in line at a McDonald's and wondered, hey, the guy in front of me, I wonder if he's been vaccinated for polio. If he hasn't, he shouldn't be allowed to be in here, and he certainly shouldn't be breathing on me. Well, see, I've been vaccinated for polio. I'm not worried about it. And the American people were beginning to put all this together and saying, and they're done. I'm sorry, they're just done. And now to hear this with Dr. Fauci. On the one hand, you know, people would like to say, well, what goes around comes around. Good, glad he's gotten a taste of his own medicine, blah, 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 blah. Look, I'm glad that he's not extremely ill. Jesse Waters, you know, was really making the case. Here's a guy that funded this being thrust on the rest of us. Maybe this is his justice, his comeuppance. I don't know. I'm certainly not going to take it to that level today. But, you know, we wish him all the best, and I'm sure he's fine, and he will be back to normal activity, and I'm sure he really didn't deviate from any of his normal activity. I bet he didn't even, I don't want to say that. Did he? I don't know. I pretty much kept a normal schedule while I was sick. I kept distance from people. I purposely try to make other people sick, but I still went to my office. I still did things that I needed to do. It is here. We live with it. We move on. But there just really is a little bit of, the world would call it karma. The Bible would call it sowing and reaping. You have reaped what you have sown.